All right. Welcome back to episode 6 of No Contingencies. We are here today with Erica Coleman. Erica, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. We're going to be discussing short-term rentals. You know something about those, don't you?
Comes up quite often.
Okay. All right. So I guess, what's your experience with short-term rentals?
I've been in the industry for the last few years. I am licensed property manager with the state of South Carolina. I started off with a very large company where we managed over 400 properties, and I have a lot of experience with a variety of properties. So I came on with Relax a year ago, and we're a smaller, more boutique luxury company, and I just really like the personalization that we give to not just the clients, but also the owners and the properties as well.
So you offer kind of like a white glove service.
Yes.
Gotcha. Good to know.
And you've been with Relax for 2 years now?
1 year.
1 year now. 1 year.
It's my 1 year anniversary.
What's the first year been like? There was a lot of stuff to kind of fix and get right, huh?
Yeah, we definitely had a little bit of a restructuring with the company, but everything is going amazing right now. We have a really great group of properties, some amazing homes and homeowners, and a great staff that goes along with it. So we've been very successful.
Yeah, so that's what I kind of have seen, right? That it took you a little while to get the structure of the operation in place. That's in place. You wanted to focus on that before we went out there and started bringing on new properties. But that seems to all be in place, and we're on solid ground and ready to go, huh?
Yeah, definitely. We were a new company, so we had to get our ducks in a row. But right now, I don't think you'd find one complaint from any of our owners as far as their rental incomes, the quality of their homes, and just the overall attention that they've gotten from us here at Relax.
Awesome. So, what's the big trend out there? You know, obviously the pandemic has changed things, but what's going on in the industry now that 3 years ago you wouldn't have believed?
So what we saw about 2 years ago was through COVID, there was a huge influx. The island was packed nonstop. There wasn't really any downtime in any of the properties. So it was nonstop turnovers, a lot going on, a lot of revenue to the owners. And now what you're seeing is it's all starting to balance out. People are going back to work, kids are going back to school. There's not as much remote going on. So while rates are still very competitive out there and owners are still getting those strong incomes, we're not seeing the amount of occupancy on the island. It has balanced itself.
You know, the rule in real estate that I would tell folks looking at short-term rental properties was expect 24 to 28 weeks occupancy. What is that what you would have thought, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, so we go with the 26-week occupancy when we do our rental projections. Okay. So you're right on with that. Just during COVID, it was maxed out.
Like in the 40s?
Yes, yeah. It was hard to get into any of the properties to do, say, a deep clean, do some inventory upgrades, anything along those lines. So now we're starting to see it scale back to right around average.
Talk about during the pandemic, you couldn't even get into them to sell them.
Yeah.
Like we were writing deals and people had rented a property for a month and they're like, you're not coming in here and giving us COVID.
Part of me can't decide if I loved it or I hated it. I'm just being honest. Like, how awesome is it to just be like, hey, it's going to go and people are going to buy it sight unseen. So we either write this offer up or you miss out.
Yeah, it was crazy. So you're saying it got up into the 40s, and where is it now? Is it back to 26 or is it?
We're starting to see it come back down right now. So the summer was really strong. Now you're starting to see this fall balance out. I watch a lot of reports through Key Data, through the Hilton Head Chamber of Commerce. So we're looking at everything from everywhere statistic-wise and seeing that occupancy is definitely out of balance.
Do you think it's going to go back to where it was, the 26 weeks, or is the new normal going to be 30?
I think we'll see it still around 30. I don't think it's going to completely drop back down to 26. I think it'll still stay strong. What we've seen is the drive that we've had to Hilton Head is not just anymore Pittsburgh and Ohio coming down here. We're getting now Tennessee, we're getting Atlanta, we're getting all these drivable states coming here that previously were not our typical guests.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot more airline flights directly into the island.
true.
Saturday at the airport, like United Airlines, they're in and out like all day long. I heard that they now have a number of flights that are so significant that most people don't realize. Hilton Head Island Airport doesn't have radar. So when you talk to the tower there, you have to report your position, and they have to physically put eyes on you. They don't have radar because they didn't have the number of passengers to get the FAA to step up to pay for it, but they eclipsed it last year. So they should be getting, and that just means more people coming in.
Yeah.
The airport is really, really busy on the weekends.
I mean, just look at license plates around here. The South Carolina license plate versus out of state.
Yeah.
And I do think that the majority that you see these days is Tennessee. You see those blue plates everywhere. So a lot of different vacationers now.
Yeah.
I feel like this is kind of a touchy subject, but obviously the new ordinance has been implemented. So do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's been a lot more hype to it than anything. So we're not seeing a whole lot of change from it at this point. I know that they're trying to make a lot of different enforcements, but the plantations already enforce a lot of things when it comes to short-term rentals. So we're not seeing a ton of change. Owners do require a business license right now to be registered with the town of Hilton Head. That was something that was not before. Other than that, everything is kind of standard at this point. So we'll wait and see as it develops and more becomes of it. But for now, it's pretty normal.
Okay, follow up as well. So we had Alan Perry on recently, and one of the things he talked about was just the lack of information that the town had on like how many short-term rentals there were. So are you in agreement that there needed to be a little bit more regulation in order for them to be more aware of like what was going on and how many existed and stuff?
I think it's definitely helpful. There's a lot of different things that happen when it comes to rentals. Just recently there was a huge fire in Condos that took down a rental house completely. I think, in order to have that information on who to contact in those instances, the town has to have more information. Who owns something, who it's being managed by, who is the emergency contact when something like that does happen. Makes sense? Yeah.
So are you saying there may have been a little bit of an overreaction to the ordinance when it passed?
I think so. At this point, just because it is, there's not been a whole lot that has come of it at this point. Not from our end.
Well, good for the town taking action and not, overshooting their target.
Yeah.
A great job, and their job is to protect our island, and they don't always get it right, but in this instance, it looks like they did, and we appreciate that. Mm-hmm. When somebody contacts you and they have a property that is maybe with another company, or they're thinking about purchasing a property to make it a short-term rental, like what are the things that you're looking for that would make a rental property great?
So what you want to look for, you can look at it two ways. If you're looking at a property that is not updated and it's missing some of the bells and whistles, you have to be that owner who is willing to invest in your property. There's so much competition here on the island with different levels of homes and condos that you want to have a great property. You want it to stand out. Furnishings, amenities, the luxury things inside, whether it be linens or USB outlets, somewhere where a person can plug in their computer so that they can remote work while they're there. Just having those sorts of luxuries at a property where if you're kind of bare bones, you're really basic, you're outdated, you're not going to stand out with the competition here.
It's not just about new properties though, right? Like I've seen, and I assume this is still true, I've seen older properties that are very well taken care of. The owner kind of decorates them more from the fun aspect rather than luxury, something that it's difficult for an older property to compete with. And people will love them because, there's people coming here that don't live in a mansion back at home either, and they're looking for a quote unquote beach house.
Yeah, and sometimes it has to do with the location of it. Where is it in retrospect to getting to the beach or getting somewhere like Hilton Plaza? Is it in walking distance? Does it have a great huge pool, but maybe the interior is decorated a little bit funky? There's just so many different things that guests look for, and it's based on who's traveling with them. Is it a younger couple? Is it middle-aged and multiple families? Is it older retirees? So you have such a variety.
Yeah. What are the requirements? You brought up internet, high quality, high speed internet so people can work. Like that mustn't be a luxury anymore. That must be a necessity, right?
It's one of the things that we require. We do require our homes to have a pool. If it is a home, it has to have a pool. If you are a condo, you have to have a community pool, or at least be willing to purchase membership for a community pool. Guests are coming here and spending a lot of money, and they want to have things available to them. High-speed internet, great linens, beach towels. They love to have bikes and beach gear available to them. And these things, what we do is we have them delivered to the home for their arrival. We have them picked up at their departure. We try to be as much of a concierge service to them as we can and provide them everything at their fingertips.
Cool.
So you just brought up something very interesting, condos versus houses. Do you have a preference? Do people have a preference? Which do you think is better?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. That always goes back to who's traveling. If you're just a small family traveling maybe with some young kids, a condo is great because you have all of the community amenities there and you just walk down, visit the pool, maybe there's a playground available, those sorts of things. But if you're someone who's traveling maybe with 2 or 3 couples, it's a large family get together, you definitely want that home available to you. So it's across the board. In the off season, we definitely see more of an influx on condos. Kids are back in school. It's couples who are traveling, those who are retired, maybe they're on a business trip, guys golf trip. They're just looking for a smaller property.
Makes sense.
Snowbirds are really interested in condos, right? Because they don't need all of the space, and if they're here in January and February, they may be looking for other activities other than just beach every day.
Yeah, they're coming to golf. They're coming just to relax, maybe read some books. We are sold out on our snowbird rentals for 2023. They booked last year, a year in advance. So there's really a strong demand for those.
And those are typically a month to 3 months?
Yes.
Wow. There used to be a lot of people that would come from Canada. Is that still the case?
It definitely, COVID hindered that a lot.
Okay.
They couldn't cross the border. Now we're starting to see them come back again. But honestly, the rentals that we have for the snowbirds this upcoming year, they're from all over.
Okay. Can we talk about bedrooms?
Sure.
So, when I meet people that are thinking about getting a rental property, they always think that the more bedrooms, the better. If they can get 8, 9, 10 bedrooms, that's always going to be better. And I've had experiences where, those 8, 9, 10 bedroom houses do really good in season, but in the shoulder seasons, in the off seasons, when there's snowbirds, you don't typically see a couple renting an 8 bedroom house. So what advice would you give to somebody that's looking at purchasing a home that may only have 3 or 4 bedrooms? Like, should that stop them from looking at it as a second home rental property candidate just because it doesn't have 6 or 8 bedrooms?
No, I'm right where you're at when it comes to that. So a home that's 3 to 4 bedrooms is going to be best because you can rent in all seasons. You may get even those snowbirds we have snowbirds that come down and it's mostly just them for the majority of their 30 to 90 day stay. But then they have their family come down and visit for a weekend. So having an extra bedroom or 2 is great. They're definitely not spending the price point in the off season for a 9, 10 bedroom house on the ocean. Those will book during the holiday weeks, and you'll get families in large groups and gatherings who are going to stay. But other than that, those houses are going to stay pretty quiet in the off season.
Yeah, so they may have 8 or 9 bedrooms, which means that when they rent, they get more money, but they might not rent for as many weeks.
Correct.
And they're going to take a little bit more of a beating, aren't they? I mean, when you get that amount of people in one house, I mean, I know I recently sold a property that slept 25.
Wow.
And guess who were some of the occupants in that property? An entire Canadian soccer team. So when I went in the day of closing with my client who thought she was getting this big, beautiful home on the water, it smelled like a gym locker. So, I mean, that's just the reality of being able to accommodate that many people, correct?
Yeah, you will get people, I mean, we say no weddings, no large parties. We're not trying to do fraternities, sororities, anything along those lines. But there's no way to really know who's booking on the other end. They put in there that they meet the age requirements. We can request a copy of the driver's license, and they will. But at the end of the day,
you don't have them under a microscope.
Right. We can't put cameras on there. We can't know exactly who's in there.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. What is on the horizon that renters and owners should know about in short-term rentals?
I think one of the things on the horizon is just knowing that the occupancy levels are balancing out. So we're not seeing the trend of being rented every single week. Now, summers, yes, your peak season, you should definitely have a rental every single week. But it's starting to balance out and slow down. We're still charging the price points to ensure that the owners are getting back their revenue and being able to cover their costs. But just keeping in mind, some of these companies out there are throwing out these projections that are through the roof. That's not true anymore. That was true for the last 2 years, and now you have to be more realistic with these people who are purchasing these properties and let them know the reality of the revenue.
And if they're new to short-term rentals, they need to understand the gross versus the net.
Yes.
Sometimes I've seen on listings that that's a little deceiving.
Very much. You don't necessarily understand what other fees are associated with it, if there are fees associated with it. Our rental projections are very straightforward. We give you your gross, we show you what our commission is, and then your net. We don't have anything additional that we come at you for. So there's no hidden fees in it and no surprises at the end of the day.
Is that both for the renter side and the owner? Like, maybe we should dig into that for a little bit about fees. About the difference between gross versus net, what things are taken out by the rental company, so that somebody can understand if they're thinking about purchasing a property, what they could expect to net on a gross number?
I guess if you're thinking about purchasing a rental property, maybe the difference in some companies is where we charge the guest a cleaning fee. It's not charged to the owners. That was something of the past. Owners always had to pay their cleaning fees out of the gross. That's no longer the case. And credit card processing fees, those are charged to the guest as well in their reservation fees. So that's another item that comes from the guest and not from the owner.
Is that something that Relax does in other companies, or is pretty much everybody across the board charging that to the renter at this point?
There's still a little bit of variety out there.
Is it 50-50 or is it?
I'd say the majority is doing it that way, where they're charging it to the guest.
Okay.
But you do still find companies out there who charge it to the owners, or they slide in there things like a technology fee.
Wow.
There's some different things out there.
And what would a technology fee be?
They say that it is to cover things like going out and changing batteries and light bulbs in a property, and maybe fixing a TV. Every guest that gets here never knows how to work the TVs.
Yeah.
So they're incorporating these into that, and I think that is another thing that makes us stand out with some of these other companies is we are a small, more hands-on company. If a guest calls us and we have to go change a light bulb or some batteries, assist a guest with a TV or another component of the property, we don't charge for those things.
You don't charge the guest or the owner?
Not the guest or the owner. It's a service that we provide.
Why don't we?
It's who Relax Rentals is. It's who we want to be. We want to be hands-on. We try to give more of a personalization to both sides, both the owners and the guests. It's not just about making money at the end of the day. It's about the experience that they're both having.
Isn't it true? Like we talk about renters and we see the people in line coming on the island on a Saturday, and we don't really put a face with those people. But in many cases, those people have saved all year long for a 1 week experience in this place. And we're so lucky to get to live here. We try not to take it for granted, but we are so lucky to get to live here. And do we really want to be nickel and diming people for things like light bulbs and batteries, which really affects their experience, right? Like it's about, did they have a good time or not? When you're renting a property, your assumption is stuff is going to work.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and that you have everything when you get to that property. I had a guest call yesterday, and she wanted to wash dishes in the sink versus using the dishwasher, and it was missing a sink stopper. And she's like, I know it's not a big deal, but if I could wash the dishes, I'd really prefer. So we went and we picked her up a sink stopper. We didn't charge her for it, and it's one of those things you follow through with the guest and make sure that even if it's something as silly as a sink stopper, that they have those things available to them to make their stay more pleasurable.
It sounds like a little thing, but it really isn't in today's day and age where everything is done over text and it's so impersonal.
Yeah.
Like to connect with somebody personally and hear what they're looking for and then deliver and make it personal. Like there's so much opportunity in that in today's world.
I think it definitely builds a relationship with the guest. When I showed up and knocked on the door, she was like, oh my God, you have our sink stopper? And I said, yeah, I told you I would bring it. She's like, you're Erica. And I said, yes. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. Littlest thing, but to put a face to the name of the person who answered the phone and promised to deliver something and then actually show up and hand it to them, she was just like, wow. I didn't expect it, but we followed through and we did it.
Yeah. Lee Iacocca, he was a great business person who passed away a couple years ago, but he always talked about that if businesses would focus part of their marketing budget on just making their existing customers happy, they wouldn't have to market so much, right? And that's a guest that will come back, right? And the rental company benefits from it, but also that property owner, there's less of a chance that week next year will be unoccupied. And the more properties occupied, the more competition there is to get in, the higher the rates, right?
That and just having a repeat guest come back is huge, because once they fall in love with your property, they come back and they continue to take care of it as if it's their own. They're kind of like, this is our vacation rental. It holds a special place for them. So there's so much more care given to your property when you can lock in those guests.
That's so true. So true. So, that leads us into kind of my next question for you. And that's, somebody is thinking about purchasing a property and making it a rental, or they're with another company and their company, they call in and they go through the 4-minute phone tree and then get hung up on, and they're hearing about you delivering drain stoppers. How do they begin to have a conversation with you, and what would you want them to know about the company Relax Rentals and you?
The first thing is call me, text me on my cell phone. It's 843-415-5009. We have a personal relationship with all of our clients. I have guests who text me. I have owners who text me, vendors. I'm open to it all, no matter what time of day it is. That's just the service that we provide. So by all means, reach out. If you're in the market and you're shopping for a property, call me. I will meet you on site. We'll walk through it together with your realtor, and I will say, yes, this will be great. No, it won't be great. Or it would be great if it had X, Y, and Z. And are you willing to invest that money to make it great? And if so, then this is the property you really want to lock in. And we do that a lot with our realtors here. So it's just a great thing to offer them.
Yeah, so a lot of real estate agents are watching this podcast. So same thing, right? They can reach out to you and get you involved, and it really helps make a sale. That real estate agent is an expert in real estate, but you're an expert in rentals. You're bringing a whole nother
layer.
Point of view, perspective on the property, and it can be very valuable and very comforting to somebody that's buying their first vacation rental property, right?
Right, and sometimes maybe they move from one price point to another, as in they increase their price point knowing that one property, while it may have been a little bit less expensive, it needed a whole lot more work. So going up a little bit, it's more, I guess sometimes we use the term move-in ready, but maybe they spend a little bit more for a move-in ready that can go right onto the rental market instead of having to invest and take some time to bring it up to what we're looking for in a rental.
That is a fantastic point, right? I have seen this, that sometimes a property that's less expensive to acquire is more expensive to own once you factor in the rental income. And I've seen this over and over again where folks spend a little bit more money, but the cost to own that home goes down on a monthly basis because it rents so well, because it's in the right location, or it has that amenity, or like you said, if the house needs a pool and it's going to take you 6 or 8 months or a year to get a pool put in, not that it takes that long, but you've got to get it approved by the architectural review board and get permits and all that kind of stuff. If it takes a year and you lose a year of rental income and it's $150,000 for rental income, like that has a huge impact on your carrying cost the first year, right? Yeah, great point.
Well, we really appreciate you being here with us today.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your experience in short-term rentals, and thank you.
absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And once again, before we go, how can people get a hold of you? You have social media accounts that they can connect with you on?
Yeah, you can reach out to our Facebook. We have a website. That's www.relaxrentals.com. You can check out our properties. Check out our client reviews on there. We have all 5 stars on any property that you look at. They are direct from our guests who have stayed with us. So it's real reviews. We really do as much as we can to make it the greatest experience here.
Okay, and if there's a real estate agent out there that's listing a property in these short-term vacation rental markets, you will meet them and do pro formas at the time of listing, I assume?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a call. Again, my cell phone is always available, 843-415-5009. I'm happy to meet with you, happy to meet with your clients. Whatever time of day it is, we can set something up, arrange it. I will do a rental pro forma, make sure that you have the numbers on it. But again, just walking through with those clients to steer them in the right direction. And it's helpful to the realtors as well.
Relax Rentals is in MLS, local MLS, right? So your number and everything is in there as well, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
I think it is.
All right. Maybe
not. No, I really do think it is. I think so. So another place to look it up, but we'll make sure that it's listed below. All right, thanks, Erica.
Thank you very much.